Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our daily English lectures. Welcome to the Cámara Peruana de Comercio Exterior. We welcome you, and I hope, first of all, I want to tell everyone that I hope everyone is fine and safe and healthy. Please take all the necessary precautions to avoid getting sick. If you watch the news lately, many people are getting sick and many people are getting infected. People who maybe did not get sick the last time, and now um, maybe they forgot or they thought that everything was fine, and now they're getting sick. I personally have some family members that are sick in Trujillo. Hopefully, they get better soon. So my thoughts for them, for my uncle. For my uncle Raúl de Valenzuela. Hopefully he gets better. So this is so as well as his wife. And so please, everybody should take care to avoid um, getting sick or making other people sick. Okay, so if you go out, remember to wear your masks. Remember to wear your face masks. Remember to change your clothes when you come back home. Remember to use wash your hands regularly. Use alcohol, the alcohol disinfected in your hands. Um, and just take all the necessary precautions, okay, to avoid getting sick and maybe some worrying family members and just this is painful for everyone. So please just take a lot of care, okay? Don't go out if it's not absolutely necessary, and avoid places with a lot of people. Take your distance and all the necessary precautions that we have been taking during this whole year, okay? So please be very careful. Remember that I will follow your ideas and your thoughts through the Zoom application, but also through the Facebook app. Okay, so if you have any questions, remember that I will follow you. I will try to answer your questions as quickly as possible. Remember that normally, I don't know, for some reason, I get the messages with a little bit of a delay. Okay, so if that happens, please let me know. So uh, so have some patience. I will answer them as soon as I can. Okay, remember that normally I follow you through the Facebook app and through Zoom. Okay, so let's begin. Today we're going to start talking. This is the first of two topics about the same one. Remember, this is a few kind words. Talking nicely to people, um, making them feel good. We're going to talk about some different topics, expression templates. But first of all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Carlos Martinez. I am an English instructor and speaking coach. I formerly I was team leader at Pacifica University, and currently I am an English teacher, an EFL instructor at Mate Purísima School in Miraflores. So, being that said, let's begin. Today we're going to talk about these topics. We're going to I'm going to give you templates about giving advice. Then we're going to review a little. We're going to learn some expressions on how to disagree, but politely, okay? Because it's not correct to say just no, I disagree. Well, it's not incorrect either. It's just too strong, too direct. We should find other ways of making ourselves, more polite. I don't know, small review, then some expressions of self-control, what self-control is, and finally, greeting cards and how to write greeting cards in English for your friends and for your family. Okay, so these are going to be the six topics which we're going to touch today. And let's begin with the first one. Remember that I will try to answer your questions as soon as possible in the Facebook app, and just ask me any questions that you might have. Okay, so let's begin. The first topic is going to be giving advice. Okay, the first topic is going to be giving advice. Normally, when we give advice, this means we want to help somebody. We want to tell them something based on our personal experience. We want to give tell people things they can do to improve, to be better at something, to correct themselves, or to be able to do something in a more in a better way, or to get better results. Okay, this is when we give advice. Now, or when we give advice, there's some ways or there's some things we need to take into account when we give advice. For example, the first thing, let's just define. Okay, giving advice in English might seem tricky. Tricky means like a little bit difficult, but there are several ways to do it, and each one depends on the structure of the sentence. Okay, so the sentence is going to be modified. So now which one to use? Like I said, basically they're all the same. The difference is more in the grammar and a little bit in the context, okay? So here are five, I'm going to give you 5 ways of giving advice in English, okay? So the first one is to use a model. A model, we have different models in English. We have, I've mentioned them before in previous classes, okay? We have, for example, we have may, might, should, could, will, must, etc. But normally when we give advice, the two modal verbs that we're going to use are should and ought to. Okay, both mean the same, but work in different ways. Okay, the grammar is a little bit different. Okay, so remember we use should. Okay, we're going to use should, and we're going to use ought to. Basically, they mean the same. If you want to find some differences, first of all, there's a grammatical difference. The grammar is a little bit different, and if you want to give it a context difference, then I would say that ought to is a little bit stronger. You know, a little bit. The advice is a little bit stronger. It's a little bit more with more power. Okay. So notice the first, you should do more traveling and you shouldn't drink much beer. So this is the affirmative. You should do more traveling, and the negative is you shouldn't drink more beer. Normally, notice that when we collocate should, the verb is always followed by the base form of the verb or the infinitive form of the verb. Okay, in this case, do, even if it's he, she, or it. Imagine I say he should do more traveling. You would never say he should does. Okay, remember that we use always the base form of the verb after the modal verbs, after any modal verbs. And the only modal verb that is followed by two, well, there are two basically, are have to and ought to. The others, and they don't use to, and they normally go with infinitive, okay? So again, we use modal verbs, in this case, should or ought to, okay? And after them, after should, we collocate the base form of the verb, and after ought to, we just, well, we collocate again, but we used to collocate before between ought and the verb, okay? So again, you should do more traveling and you shouldn't drink more beer. This is the contraction of should not, okay? Should not. Remember that this is to give, to, to tell people, how they can be better, how they can improve, how they can get better results. Right? For example, you should do more traveling. I mean, that's good advice. Everybody loves traveling, meet new places, meet new people, right? You shouldn't drink much beer, so much beer. I mean, of course, you shouldn't because it's not good for your health. Then we have ought to, okay? As you can see above, after should, we use the infinitive, like I said, right? You should go, you shouldn't drink. But after ought to, we use do, again, the base form. Okay, and here we have we ought not to. Okay, now ought not to is not as common as shouldn't. So normally when people want to use the negative of ought, they just use shouldn't. Okay, remember when you could say ought not to drink, you ought not to drink so much beer, because these are the same as before. You ought to do more traveling, you ought not to drink more beer. But like I was saying, ought not to is not as common as shouldn't. So whenever you want to use the negative of ought to, you should use the negative of should. In this case, shouldn't. Okay. Unlike should, we always use to and ought to for giving advice. So remember, should and ought to are the same. It's to give advice. Okay. Now, when we use should is the same as ought to. Shouldn't is the same as ought not to, but ought not to is not as common as shouldn't. Okay, so I will recommend that instead of using ought not to, just use shouldn't to make it make it sound better. Okay, so that's the first recommendation, to use a model. Okay, in this case, the model should and the model ought to. Now, another way of giving advice is by making a question, okay? To make advice less direct, because we don't want to sound too direct, we want to sound polite, we want to sound not as formal. We're going to make it a question, okay? And so to make advice less direct, we can use a question to make the person we are advising consider about the advice we're giving them, okay? So if you make a question, you're like, they are going to decide. It's not too direct. Instead of saying, um, you should tidy, you should be more tidy, you could say, why don't you do some more tidying? Okay, it's like you're giving them the opportunity to decide. Okay, they don't feel like, if you, when you use a question, the person who is receiving the message doesn't feel like you're giving them an indication or an order. Okay, when you use a question, it's like, why don't, how about doing some more tidying? Okay, so you're asking them a question and they feel like they will make the final decision. Okay, they are going to decide whether or not they do it or they don't. Okay, because if you say, you should do more, you should be more tidy, then the person can be offended or can feel like attacked or being told to do things. Okay, but so when you want to make a question, it makes it less direct, but you're telling him or her, hey, why don't you try to do something? Okay, why don't you try to study more? Okay, so, or why, or how about doing some more exercise? Okay, so you're telling the person, hey, this is a good idea, try it out. Okay, so to make advice less direct, we can use questions to make the person we are advising consider we are giving the advice we're giving them. Why don't you do some more tidying? Tidying is to put things in order. How about doing some more tidying? With the questions, why don't you, we use an infinitive without to. Notice that, why don't you do? We never say, why don't you to do? No. So when we use the expressions, why don't you, we use the verb without the to. So why don't you try? Why don't you study? Why don't you work? Why don't you go? You never say, why don't you to go? Why don't you to study? No. So why don't you watch? Why don't you relax? Okay, so after why don't you, we use the verb in the base form. And when we use how about to make a question, we use a gerund. A gerund is a verb that finishes an ing that is used like a noun. Okay, that's the basic idea. So how about doing some more tidying? How about studying more? How about going to the gym? How about watching some TV? How about relaxing? Okay. We never say, how about to relax? How about to do? How about to work? No. How about ing? Okay. So please be very careful when you use the question, when you use these grammars, because um, the idea might be correct, but if the grammar is incorrect, then it won't sound too proper. Okay, so remember, we give advice in a question form to make it less direct. The person will be, for example, if I tell my friend, how about going to the gym? He's going to be, maybe yes, maybe no, I think I should. So he's making up his mind, he's going to decide. But if you tell him, hey, you should go to the gym, he will say, what, are you telling me I'm fat? What's wrong with my weight? Okay, so he will feel it can be sometimes too direct or maybe a little bit offensive. Okay, so let's try, if you make it in a question form, it sounds more indirect. Okay, it sounds more indirect. Very good. So this is when the first one was using a modal verb, should or ought to. The second one was making a question, right, using why don't you or how about. Very good. Sorry, I apologize. Next, to put yourself in the person's position. Okay, this is to be to have empathy, to be empathetic. Okay, if someone is asking for your advice, sometimes it is useful to imagine yourself being in that person's position. This is a good way to explain your advice to. Okay, so if somebody tells you, okay, say, teacher, what can I do to improve my English? So I can say, if I were you, I would read more. Okay, or teacher, my brother wants to increase his vocabulary. Okay, if I were your brother, I would practice more, or I would read books, or I would watch movies. Okay, so this is when you put yourself in the other person's position. Okay, you're telling him, okay, if it were me, I would do this. Okay, so notice how we say, if I were you, I would, and the verb. Okay, remember to use the infinitive. I mean, no, I mean infinitive of the verb after would, and not to. Okay, to make this negative, put not after would. So I would not. So you have two options. After would, we write the infinitive, and if it's negative, would not, and the infinitive. So if I were you, I would not drink and drive. If I were you, I would study more. If I were you, I would practice a lot. If I were you, I wouldn't smoke, for example. Okay, so would not smoke. So remember, you collocate yourself in the other person's position, and you use the expressions, if I were you, I would, and the base form of the verb, or I wouldn't, and the base form of the verb. Okay, very good. So this is the third way, right? So we mentioned using modal verbs. We mentioned making it with questions. Now we are collocating yourselves in the other person's position. Now, to make a suggestion. Now this is just a suggestion. This is a direct suggestion. Okay, a suggestion or recommendation is another good way of giving advice that isn't too direct. You can use the word suggest or recommend as an example below. Okay, so now you're saying, I'm giving you a suggestion. Opposite, when you say you should, it's like people will feel too direct. Okay, why are you telling me I should do these things? What's wrong? But if I say I would suggest, then you're telling him that not, you don't have anything wrong. I am giving you what some information based on what I think is correct. Okay, so I would suggest doing more of an effort, or I would suggest not doing more of an effort. I would recommend doing this instead. I would recommend not doing this. Okay, so notice the difference. Notice when we said, like here, I would travel, the negative, I would not travel. When we make the expressions, when we use the expressions, I would suggest or I would recommend, then not goes after the verb suggest and after the verb recommend. Okay, remember, when we want to say the negatives, when in the expressions I would suggest or I would recommend, I would collocate not after suggest or after recommend. Okay, so I would suggest doing more of an effort. I would suggest not doing more. I would recommend doing this instead. I would recommend not doing this. Okay, so this is when we use the expressions I would suggest or I would recommend. Use the verb, okay, the gerund, after suggest or recommend to explain your advice to the listener. Make these negatives by putting not before the ing, okay? So remember, ing after suggest or recommend. I would suggest visiting a doctor. I would suggest not going to the dentist. I would recommend running every day. I would recommend not pushing heavy objects or not carrying heavy objects. Okay, so notice always after would suggest or would recommend, we use ing. I would suggest practicing. I would suggest reading. I would suggest listening. I would recommend practicing. I would recommend running. I would recommend sleeping early. So always ing, and if it's the negative, we use not before the ing. I would suggest not eating too much fat. I would suggest not sleeping too late. I would recommend not reading Spanish captions. I would recommend not listening to movies in a different language than the original. Okay, so remember, we're using would suggest or would recommend to make it less direct, but also we need to follow the grammar rules. ing and not before ing. Okay, or the gerund. So remember, I would suggest, I would recommend, and if it's negative, I would suggest not, and I would recommend not. And always ing after these expressions. Okay, very good. So like I said before, we're going to review a little bit. Finally, before we do that, um, this is when you this is a very strong advice. Okay, sometimes you need to make your advice stronger to let them know, listen, that is really important. We can use the expressions you had better. Okay, you had, or you'd better start working on your homework. The negative, you had better not start. Affirmative, you had or you'd better finish this assignment on time. You had better not finish. Okay, so we use the infinitive after better. Notice how in the other, in suggest or recommend, we use ing. After better, we use the infinitive. For example, you had better work, you had better rest, you had better practice, you had better listen, you had better do. Okay, so after had better, we use the base form of the verb without to. Okay, and if it's negative, we don't say you had not better, no, or you hadn't better, no. We collocate not after better. So you had better not, you had better not. So you had better practice, you had better not sleep. You had better do exercise, you had better not eat too much fat. Okay, you had better review, you had better not be lazy. Okay, so we use the infinitive after the expressions had better or had not, had better not. Okay, so again, we use an infinitive after better to explain our advice and add not after better to make the sentence negative. Okay, so now you know how to give advice in English. When a friend is having problems or trouble, you can tell them. Remember, number one was the modals, right? Should or ought to. Number two was to make it a question to make it less direct. Number three was to put yourself in the other person's position, right? Number four was to give a suggestion. And finally, number five was to give strong advices using had better. Okay, remember, when you make a suggestion, you use I would recommend, I would suggest, followed by ing. When you put yourself in the person's position, you say, if I were you, I would, and the action. And finally, when you give a strong advice, very, very strong advice, you say you had better or had better not, and the infinitive. Okay, now here we have some sentences, and here we have the type of advice. I would like for you to match 1, 2, 3, 4 with A, B, C, and D. And tell me, you can use, you can do it in the Zoom app, or you can do it right now in the in the Facebook app. Okay, I don't know. Let me know which one you would prefer, Facebook app or Zoom. As you can see, if you have been talking to me on the Facebook app, I have no messages. I don't know why. Sometimes I get messages, sometimes I don't. Um, I have no idea why this happens. Okay. So again, tell me, number 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, or D. Hmm? You had better finish this assignment in time. Is it put yourself in the other person's position to make a question, use a modal verb, or advise in a strong way? Which one do you think it is? Any volunteers? Anyone who would like to participate? So, you had better finish this assignment in time. Very good. Advice in a strong way, because you had better. Remember, you had better is a strong advice, okay? Next, you should do more traveling. You should do more traveling. Is it put yourself in the person's position, make into a question, or using a modal verb? You should do more traveling. What do you think it is? Hmm? Very good, very good. If you said using a model, should, right? Using a model, should. You should do more traveling using a model. Now, if I were you, I would travel more. Put yourself in the other person's position, or making it into a question. What do you think? Remember, in the Zoom app, you can ask me questions via the chat area, and in Facebook, in the Facebook chat area. And like I said, if you're writing to me, sometimes I don't see the comments, so no comments yet. But what do you think? If I were you, I would travel more. Very good. Put yourself in the other person's position. Okay, if I were you. And finally, how about doing some more tidying? This is how about doing, how about ing when you want, you call it, you make it into a question, you let the other person decide what he or she wants to do. So he or she feels that they are making the decision, even though you're giving them an idea, an advice. Okay, it's still an advice, but they don't feel too attacked or they don't feel too obligated to do it, right? Very good. Very good. Now let's continue. How to disagree politely in English. Okay, we've been talking about this topic more than once, but it's always a good idea to always remind us of other templates and expressions. Okay, so in spoken English, just saying I disagree is often too direct. Okay, normally it's not impossible, but it's not common to say immediately or only I disagree. Okay, it's too direct. Most English speakers use phrases that are modified to be more polite or indirect methods to express disagreement. Today, we're going to learn how to disagree without offending anyone. Okay, when we use these expressions, we normally would avoid being offensive. Okay, sounding too direct or too offensive. So the first one is I'm afraid I disagree. Notice that even though we say I disagree, we're using the expression I'm afraid. Okay, so it's not I'm afraid like scary like Freddy Krueger or it. No, this is I'm afraid. It's like I'm sorry, but I disagree, okay? And this is an example. We will need to buy at least 10 new machines this year in order to keep up with the increased production. And I'm afraid I disagree. If we focus on improving the efficiency of the equipment we already have, we could avoid making new purchases, okay? So the person is giving a new idea. The person is giving a new idea, but without saying you're wrong, okay? So you're using the expression, I am afraid, I disagree. Okay, remember, this I'm afraid is not I'm afraid like, scary. No, this is like, I'm afraid, like, I'm sorry. Next is I beg to differ. Okay, this is another expression that can be used to disagree politely. Okay, beg is like please, 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 but in this case we're not using it like this. It's like I'm afraid. Okay, the uses are not literal. Okay, but again, I beg to differ. It's like I'm sorry, but I don't agree. Right? For example, books are a thing of the past. The future is in online publications. I beg to differ. A lot of people still prefer to have a book in their hands rather than read on a screen. Okay, so you're saying I'm sorry, but I disagree. But you're using the expression I beg to differ. Okay, again, all of these mean I disagree, but in a very polite way. Okay, so the first one is I'm afraid I disagree. The second one is I beg to differ. Okay, I am using an expression that is making my sentence or my disagreement less direct and more polite. Okay, so again, we're saying I am afraid I disagree and I beg to differ. Next, another expression. I'm not sure about that. It's like, I'm not sure about that. Okay, so you're telling the person that his opinion or his alternative or his idea, you don't agree with that so much. Okay, for example, China will definitely be the dominant world power over the next century. I'm not so sure about that. I just don't think the current level of growth is sustainable. Okay, so you're telling the person that your idea, I don't think so. Okay, another way of expressing disagreement is by saying the expression not necessarily. Okay, it's like again, not completely. Okay, so let's look at the example. If everyone took shorter showers, the world's water shortage problem will be solved. Not necessarily. Far more water is used in the production of food, for example, than taking showers. Okay, so it's saying, yeah, I don't agree completely with your idea. Okay, next, I don't see it that way. Now, this is very direct, but still polite. Okay, you're telling them, I think opposite. Okay, if you're saying up, I think down. If you're saying left, I say right. If you're saying black, I say white. Okay, I don't see it the way you do. For example, globalization is just another way for rich countries to exploit poorer countries. I don't see it that way. I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And in fact, a lot of developing countries have benefited quite a bit. So you're saying, I don't agree with your expression. I don't think you are correct. Okay, very good. And then we have, like I said, I'm sorry, but I don't agree. So you're apologizing because again, it's too direct to say I disagree. So you say I am sorry, but I don't agree. Okay, you're telling the person that I apologize, but I am not completely on board with you. Okay, so for example, I think we should completely change the packaging of our product. It really needs a more modern look. I'm sorry, but I don't agree. If we change our product appearance, our current customers won't recognize it anymore. So you're telling him that, you're not right. Okay. And finally, we have the most simple one. Yes, but again, we're saying, okay, I hear you, but I have a better idea or I have another idea. Okay. This backpack is only $9. What a bargain. Yes, but it doesn't look like it's made from a very strong material. Okay. So you're saying, it's a bargain. It's a bargain. It's very cheap, but it doesn't look like it's very good. Okay, so you are disagreeing. Okay, so this is the most simple and still indirect way, or not as formal way, of saying I disagree. Okay, and now indirect disagreements. One way to disagree indirectly is to simply say your opinion. It's common to use the words well and actually, which signal that you're going to express a contrasting opinion. Okay, so here we're telling them that we disagree, but we're we're making it we're making it a little indirect. Okay, we're making it a little indirect. For example, we say, well, in my opinion. So studying English grammar is the key to speaking correctly. Well, in my opinion, it's more important to practice listening. Okay, so I'm being direct, but with using the expression well, I am reducing the directness. Okay, so again, I believe that Totus is the best supermarket. You can say, well, in my opinion, Metro is much better. Okay, so you're telling him or her that you don't agree. Okay, very good. Another another expression that you can use, but these are very informal. And notice, use these only with close friends. Don't use it in a professional context. You should never use these. Okay, no way. It's like, I mean, I don't agree. Titanic was Leonardo DiCaprio's best film. No way. Inception was so much better. Okay, again, you can use it with friends or family, but don't use it in professional context. And another one, you can't be serious. Okay, I think we should buy a new car. You can't be serious. We can't afford that right now. Okay, so you're just saying, no, you're crazy, but you shouldn't. Okay, so like I said, this is a very informal way of saying that you disagree and should be used with family or friends, never in a work context. Okay, now here are some other expressions to express disagreement. I don't think so. No way, but it's very strong. You should be careful. I'm afraid I disagree. I totally disagree. Again, very strong, not to be used in a work environment. I beg to differ. I would say the exact opposite. Okay, even though this one sounds a little bit more formal, you should avoid it because it's very strong. So keep it for family or friendship relationships. Okay, not work relationships. Not necessarily. That's not always true. That's not always the case. And no, I'm not sure about that. Okay, so these are some expressions that you can also use to disagree. Okay, very good. Now, again, here are here are like uh, four sets of dialogues. I want you to match the context with the response. Okay, the context with the response. For example, well, I'm sorry, we'll need to buy at least 10 new machines this year in order to keep up with the increased production. China will definitely be the dominant world power over the next century. This backpack is only $9. What a bargain. Books are a thing of the past. The future is in online publications. Now, the answers, I beg to differ. A lot of people still prefer to have a book in their hands rather than read on a screen. Next, yes, but it doesn't look like it's made of very strong material. Next, I'm not sure about that. I just don't think their current level of growth is sustainable. And finally, I'm afraid I disagree. If we focus on improving the efficiency of the equipment we already have, we could avoid making new purchases. Okay, so now I want you to match. I want you to match. I want you to connect number one, two, three, four with A, B, C, and D. Okay, so let's see. We'll need to buy at least 10 new machines this year in order to keep up with the increased production. Which is the correct answer? Letter D, says Miss Waman. Let's see. Very good. I'm afraid I disagree. If we focus on improving the efficiency of the equipment we already have, we could avoid making new purchases. Very good. Very good, Miss Woman. Let's look at number two. China will definitely be the dominant world power over the next century. A, B, or C? What do you think? A, B, or C? Let's see. Letter C. Let's see. Let's verify. Very good. I'm not sure about that. I just don't think their current level of growth is sustainable. Very good. Next, this backpack is only $9. What a bargain. A or B? Letter B. Let's see. Very good. Yes, but it doesn't look like it's made of very strong material. And finally, books are things of the past. The future is in online publications. I beg to differ. I don't agree. A lot of people still prefer to have a book on their hands rather than read it on a screen. Very good. Okay, so very good. Very good for your participation. Thank you very much, Ms. Wamang. Excellent participation. Okay, these are ways I beg to differ. Yes, but I'm not so sure about that. I'm afraid I disagree. Are some expressions of disagreeing, but in a very polite way, a very formal and polite way. Very good. Now, we're going to go to this topic very quickly. It's self-control. Okay, self-control is essential in success in relation to your daily habits, your character, your attitude, your emotions, and your actions. Some people are able to control themselves in order to do what needs to be done to make them successful, while others have a lack of self-control over themselves, which leads them to be a loser or lose sometimes. May these quotes inspire you to have self-control over yourself in all aspects of life. Okay, self-control is very, very important. Emotional IQ is very, very important because maybe you have all the knowledge in the world, but you cannot control your emotions. If your emotions control you, then sometimes you might create situations that are tense or um, bad situations or confrontational situations. So it's always good to have self-control, to be able to manage your feelings, to be able to manage your emotions. It's not easy, I know, but you can learn to do this at any time. Okay, um, I firmly believe that emotional intelligence is as important or even more important sometimes than IQ. Okay, so here are some quotes. A quote is a thing. A quote is an expression said by somebody literal. Okay. For example, Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart." Okay. This is food for thought. I want you to think about it. Okay. Um, the importance of this sentence. Okay. To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart. Very right out of the top, I can tell you that it has to do with you can't manage other people's minds, things, or thoughts, but you can interpret their feelings. I mean, you be empathetic and to put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? Next, never respond to an angry person with a fiery comeback. even if he deserves it. Don't allow his anger to become your anger. So this is Bodhi Sanders. This is very true. Sometimes people can manage their hatred or their anger or their fears, and they attack you. And if you have control, then okay, let them blow off their steam, and you just handle your cool, and then you come back. Okay, don't allow the other person's anger become your anger. Okay, please, it's very important for you to avoid this, because if somebody is very confrontational and you're going to be confrontational too, then everybody's going to explode. Okay, so just relax, keep your cool, and then continue with what needs to be done. And finally, he who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still. Okay, it's very this is very, very important. Okay, if you are a leader or a coordinator, if you manage groups, it's good to be able to manage the groups, but if you can manage yourself, then I mean, you need to lead with the example. It's very important to be able to control yourself just as well as you can control other people. Okay, so these are some quotes. These are some quotes. Remember the exact things said by these people. These are some quotes. Remember, don't allow other people's anger become your anger. It's more important to master yourselves rather than others, and manage other people's problems with your heart rather than your head. Very good. So these are quotes based on self-control. And finally, we're going to talk about greeting cards. The greeting cards, like a letter you said to some people, but sometimes we think, okay, what can I say? What can I say? What can I write? Okay, I have created some situations here and things that you can write. For example, for birthdays, sometimes for birthdays it's good to be fun, to be funny. Okay, people appreciate sometimes when you take it very, very informally. Okay, so you can say congratulations, you're halfway to, for example, you're halfway to 80, you're halfway to 100, to halfway to 60. Okay, maybe they are 20, but if you say you're halfway to 40, you're like, oh no, I'm almost there. Okay, it makes them it brings a humorous idea to it. I made you a birthday cake to celebrate, but I couldn't light the candles. It turns out the fire department requires a permit for bonfire. Bonfire is fogata. Okay, so I made you a birthday cake, but with no candles because I didn't have permission to turn on a bonfire. And finally, happy birthday, old friend. Okay, so these are some messages that you can write on a greeting card. It's a funny messages. Okay. Now another greeting card for birthday, but this is more sentimental, more feeling, right? Hope your special day brings you all that your heart desires. Okay, come on, very sentimental. Here's wishing you a day full of pleasant surprises. Happy birthday. Thinking of you on this very special day. Happy birthday. Birthdays come around once a year, but friends like you are once in a lifetime. Okay, so we went from funny messages to very heartfelt birthday messages. Okay, remember, these are messages that you can write to your friends in English in birthday cards and on your Facebook account or Instagram account, or it's a way of saying, I mean, happy birthday in a funny way and in a serious and sentimental way. Okay. Now Christmas, although Christmas is already gone, was one of the times when we send most cards. Okay, so we can say, for example, wishing you peace, love, and joy this Christmas. I hope your Christmas is full of laughter, happiness, and eggnog. Eggnog is a drink that's made in English-speaking countries, similar to what we called um, algarrobin and stuff like that. Okay. Thanks for a great year. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. As the year ends, I am reminded of how much your friendship has meant to me this past year. Thank you so much for being a great friend. I don't usually write Christmas cards, but when I do, I usually write the same thing in all of them. Hope you've been good this year. Merry Christmas. So here are some templates that you can use when you write a Christmas card. Okay. Now, when you write a thank you card, okay, now these are some templates again. You are the best. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your thoughtful present. You have no idea how much your help and support means to me. Thanks for feeding the cat while we were away. Thank you for your invaluable mentoring these past 3 months. Seeing how you work has been an invaluable experience, and I'm grateful to have the chance to work with you so closely. Okay, so these are thank you letters that you can use templates, you can modify. Okay, You can use for work, for family. And then we have wedding cards also. When you write, sometimes, what do we write? What do I write? Okay, these are some templates that you can write in English. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness of all your life. Best wishes on your wonderful new journey together, your new trip, right? Thank you for letting us share such a special day with you if they haven't invited you to the wedding. Thanks for the free booze, the free drinks. Best wishes on a long and happy marriage. Congrats and welcome to the family. Okay, so here are expressions that you can use to write somebody on a wedding card. If somebody has a baby, welcome to the world. So glad you're finally here. Congratulations on your beautiful new baby. Congratulations, you're going to be amazing parents. Okay, these are for writing greeting cards for baby when the new babies come. And when somebody is sick, nowadays that we have COVID around, hopefully this goes away quickly. And again, my thoughts to my family up in Trujillo. Hopefully they will get well soon. Wishing you a speedy recovery and all of our best wishes. You are in our thoughts today and always, sending healthy vibes, positive energy your way. May you be up to all tricks in no time at all. You're one tough cookie. Come on, you can keep it up. This is an expression of saying that you can do it. You will win. You're one tough cookie. Okay, very good. So these are some expressions that we can write on greeting cards. Okay, we're going to continue with the topic of greeting cards. We're going to open with this topic the next class, and also we're going to talk about or some organizations. Okay, but I would like for you to keep in mind this topic because we're going to continue with this topic on Monday. For another celebration, Mother's Day, for example. Okay, I don't know. Some people still have issues or problems when they write to their moms. What can they say? But here's some templates. I'm so lucky to have you as a mom, but not as lucky as you are for having me as a child. That's a funny one. If I could choose my mom again, I would definitely still choose you. Happy Mother's Day. You do so much for me every day. So this Mother's Day, put your feet up, sit back and relax, and let me treat you. Okay, let me. It's like let me do everything for you today. You may not have given me life, but you're a huge part of mine. Thank you for being you. That's a nice one. These are for families, for step families, right? You may not have given me life, but you are a huge part of mine. Thank you for being you. To write a sympathy cards, just to saying, when people, well, again, this deadly disease. I mean, I've had to write more than one of these in the last year. I'm so sorry for your loss. With deepest sympathy, as you remember, in the name of the person who passed away. Your son touched the lives of so many. I'm glad I had the chance to know him as a friend. Okay, so here are some to express your sympathy for somebody's loss. And then we have Valentine's Day. I mean, it's coming up soon in a couple of weeks. Happy Valentine's Day to someone special. All you need is love, but a little chocolate now and then doesn't hurt. Sometimes I wonder how you put up with me, but then I remember I have to put up with you, so we're even. Okay, so these two are these last two were funny. Okay, again, these are templates that you can use to express your feelings on greeting cards. These are letters that you can buy at the store, so maybe you can create them on your own. Okay, it will have much more meaning if you make them. Okay, very well. And like I said, we will continue with this topic on the next class and also talk about international organizations and a little bit more topics about kind words. Okay, so thank you for your attendance. Thank you for bearing with me, your participation in Zoom and your participation in the Facebook app. Again, if you have, please stay with us because there's many more lectures after this one and the same as tomorrow. And remember, English is Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 in the morning. Thank you for, again, bearing with me all this past hour. And if you have any questions, remember that you can contact me at my email, cjmflores@gmail.com, or my WhatsApp number, 947-390-436. And finally, you can also contact me at my LinkedIn account, cjmflores27. Okay, so again, please stay safe. Um, May for you and for your loved ones, take all the necessary precautions. Wear your mask, wear your face mask, wash your hands, don't touch your face, change your clothes, clean your shoes, and don't visit people that you haven't seen. You don't want to get them sick and then um, being sad for their illness. Okay. Again, a prayer for my family to heal. Hopefully, they get better soon, and a prayer for all the people that are sick and for anybody who knows somebody who needs support, moral support. All my moral support to you, and I will see you on Monday. God bless you and have a great weekend. Bye bye, everyone. Take care. Bye bye to the students who participated in Zoom. Bye bye, Mr. Carlos, Mr. Rabin, and Miss Woman. Take care. Have a great weekend.